data binding. We will detailedly discuss about data binding in React. Actually, I explained the basic scenario. What is data binding means? Data binding is the process of accessing data from source and binding to UI. So it is the process of accessing data from source and binding to UI, user interface. We can access data from source. Source may be anything. Data source can come from API. Data source can come from various places. We will see different sources, how to use them. Actually, accessing data from any place and displaying in the UI, this process is called data binding. How JavaScript will do that, I explained. How JavaScript does that? JavaScript and jQuery can handle data binding using DOM methods and jQuery functions. We have jQuery functions and DOM methods. For example, in a variable, we have some username, in that some John. I want to display this in a paragraph. In a paragraph, we want to display that username. Then how JavaScript will do? Document dot query selector. So paragraph, in the paragraph, what? Inner HTML is equal to what? Username. Like this it will do. But what is the advantage of React? React uses data binding expression. React uses data binding expression. Data binding expression is defined by using curly brace. It is defined like this. By using this data binding expression, you can bind the data without using any methods. That means, for example, we have username as John. We want to display in a paragraph. We have to just use username. That's how we do. It's very simple. We don't need to use any methods. We don't need to use any method. We have to just access the data from the source and we have to bind to the UI. That is the binding technique provided by React. Actually, here we will learn a lot of methods, how we can bind different kinds of data. Because when you are learning data binding, you also know that JavaScript data types are so many. We have number, string, booleans, null, undefined, symbol type. We have non-primitive types like arrays, objects, array of objects. You have learned all data types in JavaScript. Then the question is how developer can handle different types of data. How developer can deal with different types of data. We will see that example now. How to manage different types of data. Let's see. So first we are learning binding. So React requires various techniques to bind data. React requires various techniques to bind data. So which is data which is complex. Complex data means arrays, objects, array of objects. How? We will see that. Actually, what are the data types we are having? Primitive types and we have non-primitive. In primitive types, what we have? Number, string, boolean, null, and what? Undefined, and we have a symbol type. These are the primitive types. Non-primitive types we have like non-primitive types. Non-primitive types, we are having an array, we are having an object, we are having a map. This comes under non-primitive types. Now, how to bind this kind of data? We will see that point first. How to bind different types of data. Let's see. I will give some examples now. We will create one component here. Let's add a component. I am going to this component folder. This is our project components folder. Let's add a new folder by name data binding. Okay. In this, we will add one new file, data binding.jsx, JavaScript extension, JSX. If you want any CSS, you can use CSS. As of now, this one is enough, data binding.jsx. Okay. Now, how to create a component? Last session, we already learned export, function, and the function name, data binding. And it should return some markup. Just we will use a container, and here class name, some container fluid. Now, how to present different types of data, we will see. Different examples I will give. So I will first put this data binding as heading. Let's keep this in the startup. To keep in the startup, we have to go to index.js. Here we have to add which component? Data binding component that is added from the components. We are importing it. Let's start the application. npm start. So currently data binding component is in the startup. That means application starts with the data binding component. Yeah. So meanwhile, we will create here some data. Let's go to data binding. Here we will design some data. Currently, we will create some data here itself. Later, we will bring the data from any API and we will see how to interact with the API data. As of now, we will put some data directly here. Let's see. I am creating, so where some ID is equal to 1, that is ID. Another where name is equal to some name, like this. I am showing primitive types first, basic. Next, where I have some stock, some price. Price is equal to some price. Where stock is equal to true or false. These are primitive types. We have a number, we have a string, we have a boolean. These are all primitive types. Now, how do we present these primitive types? It's very simple. Just below, I will write here some product details. And I will create a data list. In that data term, product ID. And we want to display the ID below this. Then just you have to use a binding expression. In the binding expression, we need to access the reference ID. I told you that temporarily we are using variables, but later we will understand that various state management techniques are used instead of variables. I will tell you, because first you need to learn and understand binding. Once you know binding, data source we will use from various locations. As of now, this is simply binded. Okay, what about string? That's also same. I'm using name. How to bind the name? Just we have to use name. Now I'm using price. How to bind the price? Simple binding expression, price. I want stock. Stock is a boolean. How to bind the boolean? I can write an expression here. Expression is if stock is equal to true, then we will display available. You know it is ternary operator. Na? Ternary operator. You learned all operators in JavaScript. This is a ternary colon. Otherwise, what it should be? Out of stock. That is how we need to define. Now, this is presenting plain primitive types, the plain primitive types of data. Now, you see here, I am trying to run this and see now. Let's open this. You can see the details are here. Actually, we are having some styles. Huh? Index.css is having some styles. So we will remove that here. So display flex container fluid, because container fluid is adapting some effects. Huh? I will remove them. And I think index.css. That's okay. Now it is fine. So actually, in the previous example, I applied some additional effects for that. Now you see this is all the data coming. So we are accessing data from the source and binding to UI. If I have to do this in JavaScript or jQuery, lot of techniques are required. Lot of DOM, you learned already JavaScript, no need to explain. Lot of DOM methods are required. Get element by ID and display inner HTML inner text. Here simply binding expression. Here I am using a simple primitive types and I am presenting primitive types. This is one simple example for primitive types. This is an example for primitive type. Let's take an example. I will copy this here. I will copy data binding and I will keep this code here. Data binding dot what? JSX. In data binding JSX, this is the code. I will copy this. This is for your practice. You can try this. This is primitive type. Let's see another example. So how do we can bind object? How we can bind an object? You learned JavaScript objects. JavaScript object is what type? JSON. Generally, how a JavaScript object is binded. Okay, let's do one thing now. Here, instead of creating so many types, I will create a simple var product. Product is an object. You know how to define an object. In the object, we have key. Key is what? ID. And what value it should have? Someone is the value. Second, we have name. What value it should have? Samsung TV. Okay. We have price. What value it should have? This is an object type. We have like that is stock. It is true. Like this we are defining. This is object type data in JavaScript. Now, how do we access this object and present it here? To access and present it here, this is not ID now. It is an object. How to access any members of an object? We have to just use object name, product dot and ID, its member. Similarly, how we access the name? That means we have to use product dot what? Name. How do we access price? Same, product dot price. And how do we access stock? Here we need to access product dot stock. That is how we can deal. This is simple object type data. We are accessing the object and we are displaying. Now you can see this is how it is presenting. Suppose I am doing modification, Samsung, some LED TV. Now you can see it is updated. I'm adding some price here. So that means here I am defining some price and you can see it modifies. That is simply accessing the data and displaying the data. If it is a plain number, string, boolean, if it is an object, then how do we access and present? That is generally we do. This in JavaScript jQuery, lot of manipulations are required. But here it is simple. One binding expression is enough. So this is another example for which kind object. I will put this example same. Data binding dot JSX. This is another example. Same concept, but this time data is coming from an object. How do we present an object? Now let's see some more complex here. Let's see how we can present an array. Generally, how array is presented, if you know in JavaScript, that is a lot of pain. It's a very lengthy process. If you know, I will show you. See, first I will show you how we can present in JavaScript, general JavaScript. I will show you. See, I will create some HTML page, demo.html. This is for you to show difference. For example, we have an ordered list and we have a drop down. Two are there. Now we have a script. In this, we have an array called categories. Categories is an array. You know JavaScript array. In that, we have some electronics. We have like footwear. We have fashion. Actually, we need to access these categories and display in ordered list as list item. How do you do this in JavaScript? We have to access that categories and add them into drop down as options. How do you do this in general JavaScript? In general JavaScript, to do this, a lengthy process. What is the process? I will tell you. You have to write an event on load On load, what is it? Body load. You have to write a function. The function is body load. Now in this, we have to read every element from categories, array. Then we use iterators like for, where, item, of, collection. Collection name is what? Categories. Now we are reading every item. For every item inside the categories, we need to create a list item. We need to create a list item. Into that list item, we need to add. That means here, how to create a list item? Where li is equal to document dot create element li. We create a list item. In that list item, li inner HTML is equal to item. That means that category name. After that, add this list item into ordered list. Document dot query selector. We have to access ordered list. Into that, we have to use append child. Into that, we have to access list item. This is how JavaScript does. This is lengthy process. This is how you learn in JavaScript how to present an array in a ordered list. Now you see when I run this in JavaScript, it is going to present here in this way. You can see it presents like this. Now how to add these in a drop down? To add this in a drop down, we have to create an option, document dot create element. Create element is what? Option. Option dot inner HTML. Option actually will have text. Option text is item. After that, option have value. Value is item. And document dot query selector, access that drop down. Into that you have to append child. Which one? Option. Now these items are added into drop down. That is how JavaScript teaches you. That's how generally you do. If anybody asks, is there any another technique? No, this is how you have to do in JavaScript. In JavaScript, how you access the elements from an array and how you present them. This is the lengthy process you need to follow. I am just showing you the difference. That means in JavaScript, this is the problem. This is the pain. I just showed you after all an ordinary array. If I have to create a table like this, it becomes very complicated. I will show that. Here, this is how JavaScript does. But how React does? Let's see how React can handle this. What is the feature of React? How simple it is. Let's see. We will create here. Let's see how React will do. I will give a heading. So here I will give some categories. I want to generate an ordered list here. Now we have an array called categories. Categories is an array. And we need to read all the elements from array. Array have like electronics. It is having like footwear. It is having like fashion. Some categories are present. I want to present all those categories here as inside ordered list. It's very simple now. Why? How it is simple? Inside order list, we need to read every item from the categories. So we write a binding expression. In this binding expression, we will access categories, that is array. How to read all elements from an array? In JavaScript, you learned array methods. Tell me what are the array methods which are used to read all elements from an array? What are the JavaScript array methods used to read all elements from an array? To read all elements from an array in JavaScript, you have methods like toString. You have join. You have find. But find will read based on condition and it will return only one. So it is not for all. Filter also based on condition. We have another one, if you know JavaScript, map. JavaScript have a map. What this map can do, it can read every element from an array. Map is an iterator. It can read every element from an array and it returns that element. From begin to end, it can read every element from an array. Then how do we define that? How do we configure that? Let's see. That means you can use toString, you can use join, you can use map, and the best option is map because toString separates with comma and join separates with your own delimiter, your own separator. We want as list items. In that case, we can read every element from array by using map method. By using map. By using map, we can read every element from array. Actually, map is a callback function. Callback functions. Generally, callback functions, we write a function like this inside. But it is not recommended to write these callback functions, especially in binding expressions. In binding expressions, we don't recommend this. We recommend always arrow techniques. In JavaScript, you learned how to write functions in a shorthand way. How to write functions in a shorthand way, you learned JavaScript arrow techniques. That means how do we write? So map. So in this, we use a function. And this function will return, right? So what this function will do? This function is going to read every category from these categories. So we will access category, that is parameter. That means every parameter, that means every category present in this collection, this map is reading. It will read the first category. After reading first category, how to present it? How to present it? It should return. What it should return? It should return a list item. In that list item, I have to just present the category name. That's it. That's how we do. The same work you saw in JavaScript. You have to write a for loop, or you have to write a for iterator. You have to create elements. You have to append elements. But now this is simple. You read every element from an array by using which technique? Map. And you just present it. And you see now, you see it is ready. It is working. The same thing you saw in JavaScript, how you people do. That means it requires a lot of logic. Now React is simple in binding. You can easily bind the data. So now observe here, suppose I am trying to present the same in a drop down. Then how? How to present in a drop down? To present in a drop down, here again binding expression. In this binding expression, what is the collection? Categories. How to read every item from collection? Map. And map uses a callback function which will read every category from the categories, and it will return every category as n. This time it should return as an option. Option. In that option, we will put that category name. That category name will be there. And you can see that it is creating a drop down with those. That is how we can present. The same thing, the same concept, generally in JavaScript, we do like this. This is lengthy process. We need to define a load event. We need to write a function. You need to read every item. You have to create element and add element dynamic. But elements are dynamically generated here. It's a simple technique. You just access and display. For example, let's do one more here. Suppose in a table, I want to display. That means table is having some class table and table hover. And in the table, we are creating some t head, table header. In that th, in that actually it should have tr. In that th, we have categories. Okay, now you can see this is a table here. And under that, we need t body, table body. In that, we need to create a row for every category. Then here we need to write a binding expression. And we need to create a row for every item inside categories. So we have to read what? Categories dot map. We read every category, and for every category, we need to return. What to return? We need to return a tr. In tr, can you display anything directly? No. In this, we have to create a td. In this td, we will display that category. That means you can see it can generate a table. It is creating a table with rows. You want an ordered list, unordered list, you want a checklist, you can design anything. For example, I want to create a checkbox list. I want to create a checkbox list. Let's see how to create a checkbox list. How to create a checkbox list. For example, see here, I am creating unordered list. Unordered list, I am creating a class list unstyled. Unstyled means no symbols. Now here binding expression, we are reading categories dot what? Map. We are using a callback function. We are reading every category. For every category, we are returning a list item. And in this list item, we will put a input type is equal to checkbox. We are using checkbox. Input type is equal to checkbox. That is input type checkbox. The checkbox text is category name. That is the category name. That means now it is going to create a checkbox list for every item. That means you are creating checkbox. You want a button for every category. You want a link for every category. Anything you can do. Suppose I want a button for every category. Then how do we create a button for every category? So I'm writing like this, a div. Now I will put here, so a binding expression. And here we will create categories. Categories dot what? Map. We will read every category. For every category, we need to create a button now. Button. What should be the button text? Just button text will be category name. How the button should appear? Class btn, btn. Suppose I said danger, and suppose margin bottom 2 like this. And you can see these are buttons. Actually, this is just a div. We created a div. If I want one below another, then obviously we can add other options. D block, something like this. It will display like this. We want the width W100 or W25. Then it is going to generate that and display. So we are accessing the data and displaying binding in the UI. The same work, JavaScript, jQuery requires a lot of logic. Now React simplifies this. This is the specialty of using such libraries. React or Angular or Vue, they use these all techniques. They reduce DOM manipulations. Because JavaScript, jQuery, I already told you, JavaScript, jQuery also can build single page applications. They can build single page application now. So already we were doing that from several years. But why people are migrating towards React, Angular and other? Because they simplify. The same concept they simplify. That is one of the main reason. Implicitly they can handle them, right? This is just after all an ordinary array. You just learned how to present a simple array. Let's see some complex data. Now here one more point I have to tell you. Observe carefully here. When you are using array, the key point is to present array. So to present array and bind its data to UI. So you need various array methods. What are array methods? We can use array methods like toString. We can use the methods like join. So we can use the method like slice. Slice will get from particular index number, right? And you can use map. You can use these all array methods you learned in JavaScript. So you can use find, but find will return only one. So you can use filter. It will return all which are matching your condition, which are matching the condition. These all techniques you can use. So these are the major points you need to understand, that how we can read an array, how we can present an array. That means what you have to do syntactically like this. We have a collection. This collection uses a map. Map uses a callback function. This callback function reads item, every item, and it returns the item. That returned item you need to present in some location. That means that returned item you need to present in a paragraph, in a list item, depending on which parent you are using. If it is an ordered list, then this will be a list item. If parent is an drop down, then this is an option. If parent is a row, then this is a cell, like that. You can define based on, right? This is basically how we can handle. Actually, this is a callback function which collects every item from the collection and returns. That returned item you can present anyway. This is one example. Let me keep this example. Data binding dot JSX. Let me copy this entire code. Here I showed you different ways. Okay, let me put one more link also. Suppose I am creating an unordered list. So this is a class list unstyled. Okay, I want to create an unordered list of links. Links I want. Then what we will do? Simply we can just use categories dot what? Map. Categories dot map. For example, I'm using, so every item, I'm just using category, reasonable name. You can give any name. And I need to return a list item. And this list item should use, and actually it should use an anchor. Anchor href temporarily I will give hash. And this anchor text must be what category? Then it is going to create a link. It is going to create a link. Later you can make them functional. We will make them functional. When user selects that category, the category related information will come. We can do such works. Later we will do, but this is the different way of presentations, right? So any HTML element you can present in this way. For example, I will copy this code for you. This is presenting little bit complex type. It is what? Array. Presenting a string, a number, boolean is simple. You don't need any much complicated concept. But presenting object, just object name and the property name. Presenting array. So then you need map, find, filter like options. Others also I will show you. We will see that. Here one problem is there. This you have to address. This is very important. What is important is in virtual DOM, if any element is repeating, in virtual DOM, if any element is repeating, then every repeating element must have a unique identification key. Compulsory. Otherwise React throws error. Actually in the output it is working. You saw the output, it is working, but React in the background fails actually. In the output it is showing, but in the background it will fail. This will later be effective. As of now, no problem. Currently you can see the output, but you can observe that means actually what you are doing through map, you are repeating a list item. That means you are using collection, we are using map, and we are reading every item. And what you are doing, you are repeating a list item. You are repeating a list item and you are defining that item name here. Same item is repeated, then React have a problem. React cannot identify which one is first, which one is second, which one is third. All list items are same. Then the problem for DOM, it doesn't know which hierarchy. Then what you have to do is for every repeating element, you have to put a key. Compulsory. This is not required when you are doing in your JavaScript, but here it is compulsory. It needs a unique key, and that key must be unique. That means better use that item. That means category, electronics is the key, electronics is the text. Fashion is the key, fashion is the text. Later you can put any unique concept like 1, 2, 3, 4, like IDs and references. I will show that. So this is important. If you don't give this key, then it shows an error. You see currently output is okay, but let's right click here. Go to inspect. You will see in the console, elements console. You can see in the console, it says each child in a list should have a unique key. That is the problem. That means there is a problem in your binding expression. And remember, even if it is showing red, it is not error, it is warning. If it is error, it will not work at all. That means if it is an error means mandatorily you have to solve it. It is a warning, but it is showing in an error style, right? But actually it is a warning. Warning means it's compulsory. So it is compulsory to display that. So actually you can ignore temporarily, but later it will be effective. That's the reason you have to mention that. How? Every repeating element must have a key everywhere. So this list item is repeating key. Key must be category. This copy that. Okay. Now you can see button is repeating. Button also must have a key. Now this list item is repeating. It should have a key. So the parent repeating element must have a key. Not all child elements required. Now here also it should have a key. Here also it should have a key. Here also it should have a key. Which one should have a key? Row, because row is repeating, right? That means this should have a key. Now it is fine. Now you can refresh and see. Now there is no problem. If any one item is missing with the key, suppose this row is not using a key. If row is not using a key, then you can see error. Every repeating element must have a unique key. It is compulsory while dealing with repetitions. right? That is very important when you are dealing with virtual DOM. So make sure that every item have a reference key, repeating item have a reference key. So this is example actually for that. Means this is the original example with resolving the error it has shown to us. This is presenting array, an ordinary JSON and array. Now let's see how to present complex data, more complex data. More complex data, I hope you people know, more complex data we will see array of objects. You have seen array, you have seen object, now array of objects. Array of objects means, let's see now here. Let's clean up this. Okay. In the data binding, now we are creating some data, var data. You know how JSON data comes. We have an array. This array have object and every object have a name. This is Samsung TV, like this. Samsung TV. And we have price. This is the price. And we have some stock. Stock is some true, like this. Like this, we have another object, name. And this name is some Nike casuals, like this. And we have price and some price. And we have some stock. And stock is some true, like this. Now, I want to present this data. This is little bit complex. So you can have any number of rows like that. Now I want to present this in a tabular form. That means I am using products table. How to present this in a tabular form? And again, in JavaScript, doing this is a very lengthy, very lengthy. If you have learned JavaScript, you know how to design a table dynamically. Designing a table dynamically means you have to first create a row. You have to create a cell for every row, every item. These cells must be added to row must be added to table. It's a lengthy process. Let's show. For example, I will show you the pane of JavaScript here. Let's remove this. Yeah. This is the data we are having. I'm showing first in JavaScript how people do this. Now you see, now what we have to do is we need to generate a table. I'm just using a table. Table have some border as one. Table have some width, some 400 something. Now in the table we have t head, tr, th. We have name and we have price. So we have price and we have stock. These three details are there. Now generally this is your JavaScript. This is your JavaScript. Here through JavaScript, what we want to do? Create a row and add every item inside the row. Then how JavaScript does? And I want to add in which location? T body. In the table body, we want to generate the row for every item. How JavaScript will do? It's a very lengthy process. First, for var item of data, we are reading every item from data. And every item is an object type. Every item is an object type and every object contains name, price, and stock. Now we need to first add every item in a row. Then first we have to create a row. Document dot create element. We have to create a row. After that, in that row we need 3 cells. We have to create 3 cells. Var td name. Document dot create element. Td name. Td. After that, td price. Document dot create element. Td. How many cells like that? 3. td stock is equal to document dot create element. Td. 3 cells created. In the first cell, td name, what you should have? Inner HTML. It should have what it should have? It should have item dot name. td price dot inner HTML. You should have item dot price. td stock dot inner HTML. You should have item dot stock. Now these cells must be added into row. That means what we have to do is tr dot append child td name, tr dot append child td price, tr dot append child td stock. After adding all the cells into row, this row must be added to table body. That means document dot query selector. Which one? T body. Into T body append child, you have to add tr. Now the table is ready. This is very lengthy process. That's what JavaScript teaches you. That means in JavaScript, now imagine to create a complex data table. You need to create a table with photos, drop downs and everything. Then you will sit entire night for designing that. That means this is a very lengthy process. This is only the method how JavaScript can do. There is no other point. If you are learning JavaScript, you know JavaScript, how to create tables dynamically. This is only the way you have. That's how we generate tables dynamically. Now this work is simplified here. Let's see in React how. In React how we are just using a table. So in the table, we have a table. Yeah. In the table, we will put some class table hover. In this, we will create thead, tr, th. We know that there will be three details. One is name, another one is price, another one is what? Stock. Now in this, I need to create table body. I need to generate a row for every record. Here binding expression will come. How to read every item from data? Just we have to use data.map. Data.map, and it uses a callback function item. Now actually every item is not ordinary type. It is an object. For every item, we need to create a row. This row should have a key. That means we should use a key. Key should be item name. If it is having ID, we will use that item name. And in that row, first cell, TD, what to display there? Item dot what? Name. Second cell, what to display here? Item dot what? Price. Third cell, what to display here? Item dot what? Stock. And you can see table is ready. This is HTML. This is your table. The table is ready. Stock is true, false. True, false, it cannot display directly. We have to just put an expression. If it is equal to what? True, what should display? Available. Otherwise, what should display? Out of stock. Like this, we are writing that. Then you can see it will display available. This is a table generated dynamically. Same thing, but this time it is very simple. That means the same thing. If I have to do with JavaScript and jQuery, this is what I need to write. And this in React, it is simple. This any complex data can be easily presented. Now, very important, it depends on data, right? That means, for example, you see here, I am adding one more record. In that record, we have name. So we have like, suppose casual, I will define as some watch, and we have some price and some price, and we have some stock. Stock is true or say false. And you can see the data will be added there. The data is added. And very important here is the key point is suppose every record, suppose I'm adding here a table cell. In this table cell, I'm adding a button. And in the button, I'm adding class BTN danger. And here I'm using a span class name, BI trash fill. And you can see that there will be an icon there. Adding such icons into JavaScript design, it will take a lot of time. We can simply create such design. It is very easy to handle that. These are all one major advantages of React. How the presentation happens, binding the data. You are just in the introduction stage of data binding. You will learn more complex data, how to handle, how to present. We will see real-time live data coming from any APIs. We will try to interact with them. But first you need to understand the basic method of presentation. That means you should know how to deal with an array. You should know how to deal with an object. You should know how to deal with array of objects. Then you can work with the data, right? Now here, this is another example. This is complex. That means this is an array of what? Objects. Data binding dot what? JSX. This is another example. Now remember, there can be data nested. You can have nested arrays. You can have very complex nested. For example, let's see another example. So another example, we see how to handle nested iterations, how we can handle. Nested iterations, how to handle them. Let's see. Actually, for that, I will give another option. Let's go and design another option. I will copy this here. I will create another data here, right? So we'll create another data. Let's go and design another data. Let's clean this up. I given this example. I will upload this into class, right? Now see here, we are having another data where suppose there is a menu. This menu contains array of object. This contains category. Category is electronics. In that electronics, we have products. Products is again array. This is having like mobiles, like televisions like this. These are the options we are defining. That means we are configuring this. That means we are displaying those options and configuring. Okay, let's add one more here. Now, what is it? Another category. Another category is footwear. Okay, in this products is again array. In this products array, what is the products array we are using? Here we are using the products array. And what is that? So this is like casuals. Like this is like boots, like this. Now important, now I need to present this. But how I want to present is, I want to present in this way. So I want to present in this way, like number one is electronics. In this electronics, we have televisions. And in this, we are having mobiles. Like this, I want. Suppose I want number two as what? Footwear. In this footwear, I want the products like mobiles. This is casuals, like this. I need to create a nested list like this. How this is possible? Same. That means I will create here. So menu and see, I am creating an ordered list. In this ordered list, we have to first read every item. So how do we read every item? Binding expression menu dot what? Map. Menu dot map. So we are using map. So this is the menu. We are using the map. Okay, map. What is the map method have to do? Read every item. It uses a callback. It reads every item. After reading every item, what we have to do? It reads every item. After that, what to do? For every item, it need to create a list item. In this list item, what you want to display? In this list item, I want to display item dot category. And we will put a key. What is the key here? Some item dot category is the key. Okay, now you can see that all the category names will come. Electronics, footwear. Now what happens is, remember, in this item, there are two members. One is category, another one products. Products is again array. Products is again array. Then what we have to do? Inside this list item, we create UL. UL is unordered list. This unordered list will use an iteration again. It is binding expression in another expression, nested. And here, what we have to do? We need to read item dot products. It is an array. We have to use a map on this. We have to read every product, and every product must be printed. Every product must be printed as list item. Here we have to print every product, and this we will use as key, that is the product. And you can see this is nested. That is how we create. That means within the iteration, within the parent, there is another binding expression internally. You can create any number of nested approach. Presenting this kind of complex data is a challenging one. Right now, the question here, can you present like this in a drop-down? Can you present like this in a drop-down? For that, first you should know HTML properly. If you don't have proper knowledge of HTML, you can't think about presentation. Right? React developer is a perfect React developer only when he is 100% strong in HTML and JavaScript. Otherwise, no use. That means generally you will fail in all interviews actually if you are not good in HTML, because for React developers, generally what companies are doing currently is, once you are qualified for first round, second round, like interviews, they will say that go home, we will send an email, and in that email we will send you a task, take 2 days time, design it and send to us. And based on the review of your task, what you have done, we will go to next stage. We will call or not, we will decide. They will give 2 days time for you to design. They know that you will take help from various people, but still they are confident that they can understand you design or you taken help. Right? That means they give 2 days time saying go home and design. Even MNCs are doing that currently. MNCs also, they are sending So tasks, they are saying that this is your screen. Design this screen and send us. And once you send that, now they will call you and they will ask you the queries in that, how you did done it, what you used it, why you used it, where you used it. This is what React developers current interviews are happening, right? That means once you are theoretically good with the concepts, once he is satisfied in your theoretical knowledge, you know the topics and concepts, then he will be satisfied with your practical approach when you do the task successfully and submit. Even for people currently who are joining as React developers in companies, after selection, joined in the company, they will not be directly pushed into project. First 1-2 months, they are given with lot of tasks, every day tasks. You have to do that and submit. Once they are satisfied with your work tasks that they given to you, now the project manager can understand that, okay, you are good, and they can push you in a project now. They will not directly put anybody in a project, even experience. Even you are experienced, they have to test you with a lot of practical examples, right? You need to be very, very strong in your practical approach, dealing with different types of complex data. Actually, we are just learning presenting data currently. Only presenting data is not enough. On this data, we need to add a lot of filters, searching, filtering, sorting. We need to implement the functionality, editing. That means they will say that design this ordered list and it must be live editable. Live editable means what? They will say that under beside every category. So here, beside every product, we will put a button. So, and this button will have a span. In this span, we will put a class name. So bi pen fill, like this we given. And we are using the button. So that means class btn, warning, something like this. And you can see every option will have a edit. They will say that when I click, a text box should open there and they should modify. When text box open, this pen should change to tick mark. And they, after modifying, when they click tick, it should be saved. These kind of tasks are given for React people in interviews. So learning React is not a big concept. React is very easy to learn, but cracking React interviews, you have to work very hard. Listening is not enough. Practically, you should be very, very strong, right? Practice lot of examples and exercises. I will give you in class. In class, for every concept, I will give you exercises. You have to practice very well, right? So then only you can crack interviews in React, right? So be prepared for these kind of tasks and options. You practice every day, day by day concepts, right? Yeah. This is just to make you understand. Now tell me how to present this in a drop down. Is it possible that drop down can have nested list? We can do that because you know HTML drop downs have OPT group, option group. Generally, what you can do is you can design like this. I will put a horizontal line. I will put a drop down. In the drop down, we want to generate. What we need to generate? So menu dot what map. We have to read every item. And for every item, we will create an OPT group first. Usually OPT group contains a label. That label will be item.category. It will be item.category. Inside OPT group, you will have option. That means here we will put an iterator. This will use item.what products dot map. And we will read every product. And for every product, we will generate an option. This option contains the product. Generally, this is the technique of presenting a drop down. You can see it looks like this. The drop down have like this. This is OPT group and this is option in OPT group. And if you say, I learned HTML, but I don't know this OPT group, that's like joke. What you are talking. That means then what HTML you know? You need to be very strong in HTML because if they ask present like this and you don't know the attributes of HTML itself, then how you will present? That's the reason you have to review your HTML, complete review of HTML. That means check every concept that you learned in HTML in detail. You should know every attribute of HTML. You should know every property, how it is used, what is its limitations, because that is what majorly used in React for presentation. So the presentation completely depends on your HTML, CSS skills, right? React is having only one technique, bind map. By using that, you can present, right? This is basically how we can create complex presentation. This is example for nesting, right? This you can put in the same option. What is that option you need to put? We have to use data binding dot what? JSX. This is the basic thing you need to do. I hope you are clear, right? In presenting different types of data. So primitive types, and we have to present non-primitive types, right? Once you know this, now here, one major concept you need to learn here. Whatever you have seen here, remember, React. So this is a very big concept. React supports only one-way binding. One-way binding. There is no two-way binding. There is no two-way binding. Two-way binding. This is one point about React. It supports only one-way binding. There is no two-way binding. If a technology is not supporting two-way binding, then this you have to do manually. One-way binding means what? Accessing data from source and displaying in UI. If any modification done in UI, it should update back. React can't do that. Then how? Only one direction. React cannot handle backward. Any modification you done in UI, it can't update back. For that, you have to implement manual approach. That means you have to check verified, edited or not. If editor, find out, fire a function, collect the edited data and present. This is two-way binding. And internally, React don't have any easy options like one way, but other technologies have, like Angular and other technologies, they have two-way binding. React don't have. Then here again, a risk factor is there. That means to handle two-way binding, you have to write a lot of events. And that is the reason developers, if they want two-way binding, instead of depending on a lot of events, they can implement third parties. By using third parties, they can easily handle. But React don't have two-way binding. They have only one-way binding. Two-way binding means identifying the changes in the data and updating back. It can't do that. It cannot do that. For example, see here, suppose what I'm doing is this category name I am displaying. I will just give here the category name. This category name I am displaying. Suppose let's take a simple one. Like we have where username is equal to John. And this username must be displayed in a text box. Here I will put a div and a class margin top as 4:3. Here I said username. We will put a text box. Input type is equal to what? Text. Now in the text box, I want to display username. In the text box, I want to display that username. Then what we will do? For text box, there is a value. For value, you will bind username. And you can see that username is displayed here. I want to do some modification. I click and I am typing something. It's not working. It's not working. You can't modify. You can't modify. Then how? That is one way. Access and display. That means I am trying there and doing some modification. It's not working. I am trying to type. Then you have to manually implement this. You have to enable two-way binding with manual approach. Many technologies in front end, they internally have some facilities for that. That is the reason they are simple in two-way binding, but not React. React is not simple in two-way binding. It supports only one way. Then how to handle two-way binding, we will see. For that, we need to understand a lot of techniques to handle two-way binding. First, you need to understand only this part, how to access the data and present. How to identify the changes in the data, update back. For that, we need some other techniques that we will see in next session. We will see how to handle that in the next session. First, you need to practice all these examples. That means how to present primitive types, non-primitive types, objects, array of objects, how to create lists, how to create drop downs dynamically, nested drop downs, nested lists. This all you need to learn. Once you are good in this, now we can go into another two-way binding. How we can identify the changes in the UI, update back. For that, what are the concepts required? That we will see in the next session.